Hello, so much to get caught up on. Maybe I'll just rattle off the topics that I'll get into today, and you can kind of skip through to your liking in the video. It might be a long one because it's been a while, but I thought I could maybe share some of the talking points. So we'll break down, I know it's been a couple of months, but Festival of the Arts, talk about Saratoga Springs very lightly. I'm really going to break down some dining plan thoughts for you because while I did not sign up for the dining plan, I did do a lot of calculating and I did do a lot of thinking while I was not on the dining plan in the best way to use the dining plan for my next trip. And I have done a lot of homework, so please take advantage of all of that. Disney Springs, maybe just touch on one thing there. Attraction or ride hacks. I've got one or two things to talk about. Virtual queue update. I will talk about that. Port Orleans French Quarter. Animal Kingdom, lovin'. Maybe just like a couple of things to talk about there. What to look forward to in the summer and the fall as the last thing. So that's that. I'll get right to it. All right. Festival of the Arts. So if I have one tip to share about Festival of the Arts, it was the first time I was really there. I had made a quick visit last year, but it wasn't enough to say that I spent some time there. Festival of the Arts should be enjoyed during the day. It is a daytime type of festival, in my honest opinion. Not that you wouldn't enjoy the food and everything they have to offer by way of food at night, but much of the draw is what they do outside with their vendors and with their artists. And while there might be illuminated areas, it's not going to be pitch black. It's art. You need to see it in its form. So I will say that much. In terms of the food offerings, look, I don't want to focus too much on it because the festival is over and there honestly will be things that come back, but I'd hate to kind of bait you with the things to get if they don't come back next year. I don't think I sampled enough to give a fair opinion, but empanadas, I would say, was the number one thing. There were some other things that I didn't really care for. I felt, again, because I'm more frequently at Flower and Garden Festival, and I'm more frequently at a food and wine festival, there definitely is more. I feel like there are more booths. Maybe it just felt that way. It is a very short festival, so I can understand that Disney probably doesn't invest a ton of variety there. But the draw there is the arts, right? And just a lot of the creative things to do. So with that being said, I just think Festival of the Arts is a worthwhile festival if you happen to be in Walt Disney World mid to late January and into mid-February. It only really runs for 4 to 5 weeks. I personally wouldn't go out of my way to go to Festival of the Arts. Some people would argue that, but that's my 2 cents about that. All right, Saratoga Springs. Let's unpack it. It's just okay. I don't know what else to say. I mean, the rooms are nice. You can get a studio that's equivalent to a hotel room type of thing. The property is large. Unless you are not all about the parks and you're into going to the springs and you just want a staycation, this resort for a short stay is not your resort. You're going to be bussing it everywhere. Time is money. So unless you're going to do an Uber or you have a car, doing Disney transportation on a short vacation at Saratoga Springs, not that that's the way I did it per se, because I did have a vehicle, is not the way to go. Now, I get it. Sometimes inventory runs out and you don't have a whole lot to choose from. But with that being said, I just think Saratoga Springs is lovely if you want to be close to Disney Springs. But if you're going to be park marathoning it, probably going to eat into your day a little too much. All right, deep breath for this one. the dining plan. The dining plan is back. Yay. I'm happy for the dining plan to be back. It was back as of January 9th. And upon my last trip, which was over just leading up to Easter week, I call it Easter week, but leading up to like Good Friday, I was on the fence all the way to the last hour. You can usually add the dining plan at any point. Even if you've already paid in full and you had a change of heart, you can add it. You just can't take it away. I decided not to do the dining plan. We were there for a 4-night, 5-day stay. And I think it, if you feel like you're not using your credits, you're not burning through them, doing it for like a 6, 7, 8-night stay, you really have to be eating a lot of food. But for one reason or another, I can't tell you exactly why, my decision was no, but I closely monitored my spend, my restaurant choices, not being on the dining plan, and kind of summed it up in my mind at the end. And I will say there was a bit of FOMO because I knew certain restaurants, ones that I've been at before or ones that I wanted to try, they're a really, really high per person, per plate cost. It's usually the character meals or kind of like the family style or the buffet styles. Those are usually pretty high ticket unless you're going to a signature restaurant. I do not recommend using the dining plan for signature restaurants because it burns 2 table service credits. So maybe I should take a step back and share. You get on the standard Disney dining plan, not the quick service plan. I'm not going to be spending much time on the quick service dining plan. Not many people get it. I don't really see the value in it. But on the deluxe dining plan, you get 1 table service credit per person per day. That's a sit-down meal. 1 quick service meal, which there are some really good honorable mentions for quick service that don't feel like theme park food, that are really good. So you get 1 of those. You get a refillable mug, which you can only refill at your resort. Maybe there's a place in Disney Springs. I'll have to do my homework and double check, but you can't take that mug to the parks and expect that you can refill it. And a lot of them have those Coke Freestyle machines if you're really into doing your own concoction. Most resorts have that now, so it's a really good option. And then you also get 1 snack per person per day. So with both your quick service and your table service per adult credit, I'm sorry, I couldn't come up with the word. I don't know why. Anyway, you get 1 alcoholic beverage. So for adults, you can get up to 2 a day. And as far as like how to work the system, if you have children that are 10 or above that are kind of forced into, they're children, but they're forced into paying for the adult ticket price, I have a tip for you. So they do have to order off of the kids' menu. However, only for table service. For quick service, if you order quick service meals, it can be anything. And that could include the adult credit for alcohol. So stay with me here. If your kiddo is completely happy with what you get in a kid meal, most of them are between $10 to $15, where you have something to drink, you pick a side, sometimes 2 sides, and your main entree. Granted, it's not a lot of food, but it depends on how much your children eat, right? Purchase that. You're not forced to use your dining plan. Purchase that out-of-pocket cash and preserve that credit to be put to better use. Do you follow me here? So that then you can take advantage of it on the more expensive items or the adult portions and grab that free cocktail. I mean, why not? So yes, the whole point is you're not supposed to be spending any money out of pocket, but when your kid meal is $10 to $15 and that credit could be upwards of $25, maybe even $30, it's much more valuable to preserve that credit. Does that make sense? And that's only for quick service. You can't do that at the sit-down meals, if that makes sense. So I'll double check, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure that the kids have to use their table service credit off of something from the children's menu if they're sitting down eating. Or if they do an adult meal, you can't get their alcohol credit. Does that make sense? So that's where they kind of police it a little bit at the sit down meals. But that's going to be a little bit of a longer take. As far as the top values, and this is predominantly table service, guys, table service, top values of the dining plan. Now, I'm going to preface it by saying it is not what I necessarily think are the best restaurants, but the best bang for your buck relative to what you'd have to shell out if you paid cash. You with me here? Okay. This is I don't want to say it's an exhaustive list, but for the most part, I will give you kind of like my 2 cents on whether I think it's a good restaurant or not. Okay. So number 1, and this is actually one that I did not eat at. I wanted to eat there while we were there because the the cost per person was so high. I'm preserving it for when I do get the dining plan when we go in the summer over July 4th. So Garden Grill. Moving on. Chef Mickey's. Akershus. I believe I am pronouncing that correctly. It looks like Akerhaus, but it's Akershus. That is in the Germany Pavilion. Topolino breakfast, you cannot use 1 single credit for dinner. That would be 2 table service credits. Again, not my recommendation, not a good value. Boma, which is a buffet at Animal Kingdom Lodge Jumbo House. 1900 Park Fair, and I mentioned this in my last video. We do have an opening date this April. We're in April already. I think it opens like the 10th or something in a few days. It is a character meal, probably will be the most expensive character meal, and there are sources that have validated you can, yes, use 1 table service credit for that. That is in Grand Floridian. It'll be brand spanking new, buffet style, characters. It is my top pick if you cannot get Cinderella's Royal Table. Now, it's been closed for quite some time. I think it was even closed before COVID, if I'm not mistaken. But you do get a lot of character interaction there. So it's one of my top picks. Toledo. So Toledo is at the top of the Coronado. I actually ate there one time. Excellent food, and I'm shocked that it's only a 1 table service credit. Again, Coronado, crushing it. That should be a 2 table service credit. That hotel should be a deluxe hotel. So ton of value if you go over to Coronado. Via Napoli, not for the pizza. Now, I love the pizza. Probably the best pizza I've ever had. No joke, right? Like, I mean, I haven't had pizza in Italy, so just saying. But do not use your credit for pizza, because if you get their Mesometro or Mesometer, whatever, it's like they're extra large. I think you have to burn through like 2 or 3 of your credits for that. I don't recommend it. But for any of the $40 on up entree options, which they have fish and they have a steak dish, take advantage of the dining plan for that reason. Chefs de France, Ohana, Tepinato. Now, Tepinato, I mean, it's nothing different than like a Benihana, but it's stupid expensive. And if you really want that experience at Walt Disney World and you're on the dining plan, it is a good value relative to cost, if that makes sense. I would say it's probably my number 1 restaurant. I'd say is probably not the best. You can get that at home. Food is meh. It's more of the experience if you've never done that before at a Japanese style hibachi. And then last one, probably one of my top picks, is the Fantasmic Dinner Package. 1 table service credit, specifically the Mickey and Minnie's Seasonal Dine restaurant. Now, Fantasmic is the nighttime show at the end of the night at Hollywood Studios. It is fantastic. Fantasmic is fantastic. Anyway, if you buy the dinner package, you kind of get you get preferred seating at that show. Do you pay a little bit of a premium for your meal? I don't think so. If you pick the right things, if you're going to Mama Melrose, so Hollywood Brown Derby is actually a signature restaurant, so that would not burn one table service credit. But if you pick right, you can make out. But the Hollywood and Vine Minis Seasonal Dine is buffet style. It's very expensive out of pocket, but good use of your dining service credit. Great use of a credit if you want a character meal. They do come around and make their rounds often, so be prepared. If you're that type of person that doesn't really want to be bothered, I suggest don't make eye contact and just keep eating your food, or else they will come multiple times, multiple characters. So that's all I have to say about that. If you do not have those specific restaurants in your agenda, in your itinerary, you're probably not going to translate to coming out on top. Maybe a net neutral, possibly. I mean, if you drink a lot of Coke and you'd otherwise be getting $4 bottles of Coke at the resort every couple of hours, that's different. But at the end of the day, I do think that those are the sweet spots. If you get the dining plan, look at the menus, see if they appeal to you. And if they do, and you can kind of center, there's plenty of restaurants I just rattled off here. If you could center your use of table service credits around those restaurants, you're coming out on top. You'll be excellent there. All right, moving on. All right, Disney Springs. I could talk about Disney Springs all day. I love it more and more every time we're there. I don't love it on the weekend simply because it is very crowded on the weekend. But it's just great. They've got great little shops to go to. You don't necessarily need to go because you want to go shopping and burn money. But there's just a lot of cool stuff. And food-wise, you could graze all day at Disney Springs between the little places to get like a waffle sundae or a poutine or a bougie type of hot dog. You could do that, or sit-down meals for that matter. The only thing that I will say is a standout to me is Summer House on the Lake. I actually didn't eat there. Well, yeah, I did. I didn't have like a meal, but Summer House has a cookie bar. So Summer House is the franchise, okay? I don't think that they have a whole lot, maybe just a handful here domestically in the U.S., but the on the lake part is its signature tag to being on the lake at Disney Springs. So they have a cookie bar. And one would say, cookies, huh? I wonder why they are deciding to do that. I'm sure it has everything to do with Gideon's, right? So if you're not in the know, Gideon's is the hyped up, very themed, very marketed, super creative cookie place at Disney Springs. Gideon's also exists in Orlando. I think they might have one or two other locations. The hype about Gideon's is just that. It's the hype. So most often when you go to Gideon's, you have to approach someone to put your name in a virtual queue where they text you when your time has come. But that doesn't mean you go right inside. You actually then have the rights to wait in the line, which could be, I don't think you'd wait too long, maybe 20 minutes or so. Still, for a cookie, guys, like the cookies are good. Not going to lie. They are good. They're expensive cookies and they're good cookies. And they're loaded and they keep changing it up every month. There's a cookie of the month. There is a happy hour kind of cookie. There's a AM kind of cookie. And they also do specialty cold coffees. I don't think they have any hot coffees. So all iced coffees. And there's something to be said about the creativity that went into that. And I will always love me a Gideon's cookie. Don't get me wrong. However, unless I've got that kind of time to invest in waiting for a cookie, I usually pass it over because it's not that important. If it's our last day and we're going to be eating at Morimoto, I didn't put street food on here. Never mind. I have to talk about that. But that is in the spirit of Disney Springs. So we'll talk about it after I'm done with the Summer House stuff. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. But Unless I'm going to put my name in a virtual queue and I'm sitting like outside at Chef Art Smith's eating or Morimoto, where I could just pop out casually, but then I would leave my family while they're eating. That's not fun either. That's kind of the only way I would get a cookie, maybe my last day, get several to bring home. And I have spent $200 on cookie. I am like that person. I don't recommend it. You do have to freeze them. I don't know who could eat that much of cookies in one sitting. But it's very, very good. And so Summer House kind of caught on and they put up this cookie bar. And I attempted to visit it last February when I was there, but it wasn't quite open and it just didn't fall in line with what we were doing at the time. So finally went and I did post some things on my Facebook group page with pictures. I think I took a picture of the lemon cookie. The cookies are different. I wouldn't say that they're better or they're worse. They're just different. They're not as piled up like height-wise as a cookie. They're actually more flatter, more dense, more of kind of like that raw cookie, but you're not going to get sick. Like definitely soft, gooey kind of cookie. And of the ones that we got, so we brought some home for Easter, all of them were amazing. And I'm not a chocolate person, but their double chocolate was to die for. I think the ingredients that they put into their cookies are top. They're so tasty. I mean, you'd say that about Gideon's too, but if I had to choose between the cookie bar at Summer House on the Lake and Gideon's, I would go to the cookie bar. I mean, there's virtually no wait whatsoever. But I did get one little bonus treat for myself at the cookie bar, and you could get a frosé. And I like me a frosé once in a while, especially if it's a little hot outside. It was particularly hot that day. They made the best frosé on property. And then they topped it off with a kind of, what do you call like an egg white when they whip it up and put it on a drink? I can't think, like a frothy kind of thing. They did this frothy and it was straight up strawberry, like puree. They put air in it. And they did it in a Mickey shape somehow. So they must plop on 3 circles and make the look of a Mickey. It was delicious. Wasn't too strong, wasn't too light. And bonus, generally, if you're an annual pass holder, you don't get discounts on alcohol, but they'll give you a discount on this. So it's the best value, the best tasting. I mean, I will go there for frosés all day long. Moving on to one more thing, it just kind of came to my head as I was talking to you. Morimoto street food. So while we've eaten at Morimoto, the restaurant, which is pretty strictly Japanese, but it has some modern twist to it. And it's like Chef Morimoto that was on Iron Chef or whatever. I don't really follow those cooking shows anymore. It's been around forever, and the outside that they call street food has been around forever. So a lot of these restaurants at Disney Springs, even like Wolfgang Puck, they have these kind of adjacent little short menus that you can get like that are like window, like quick service, and maybe just a handful of tables where you can sit down and eat. And my girls are all about ramen. They're all about noodle bowls. They just eat that every single day if they could. And we, for like $14 each-ish, we got some miso ramen. One was pork. I think I got the chicken one. It was excellent. I totally plan to go there again soon. Now, it was spring, sunshine was out, but it wasn't overtly hot. I don't know if I would want that in the summer, like hot soup in the summer. So we'll see if our appetite goes there. I generally stay away from anything that's like soup in the summer. But it was excellent, and I think it was a great value. Filled us up. Excellent tasting. All right, so that's a wrap with my Disney Springs update. All right, Genie Plus ride hacks. Well, as far as I'm going to talk about ride hack, non-Genie Plus, and then we'll talk about Genie Plus. So in terms of like the one tip that I have is certain rides break down all the time. I don't know if they would have, I should say breakdown, have technical difficulties, and then they cut out the line and you can't either book a Genie Plus or you can't wait and stand by until it's back up. No one knows when, but take advantage of when those times do occur. So for example, Tower of Terror goes down often. Slinky Dog does as well. And so what I would do is spend some time in the area, try to kill some time, get a snack, keep an eye on that, because when they reopen, they don't push the availability on Genie Plus to book the ride immediately. I don't know how long, but I think they give it a solid 15 minutes to a half hour before they post it on Genie Plus. So the folks who win are the folks that are nearby and are patient and happen to catch it when it opens back up, and you wait virtually in no line. It's a walk-on, as they say. So that's my tip. As far as Genie Plus goes, as much as I think I knew the system and it keeps changing, I had like kind of a revelation, and I wanted to break this down for you on what stacking is in terms of Genie Plus present day and how it operates. Okay, so Genie Plus is the optional anywhere between $14 to $39 a day. Yes, that's how much it was per person. Ability to get what used to be Fast Pass throughout the day. And you can only get them one by one kind of thing. And there's two rules that need to happen to get a Genie Plus. Either 120 minutes or 2 hours has gone by since you've booked your first Genie Plus, with the exception of an early booking window that I'll talk about in just a moment. Or you have tapped in, meaning used your magic band to scan into the ride that you have booked for Genie Plus. One or the other. So my perfect day and my recommendation would be spend your morning at Animal Kingdom, not using any Genie Plus. You theoretically do not need it. I repeat, you do not need it. Rope Drop Flight of Passage, which is their like e-ticket attraction there, or not for that matter, and hit up one or two things, 4 things, 5 things, whatever. You pretty much won't have that much of a wait. And then head over to your park of choice that you're loading up Genie Pluses for. My recommendation would be Magic Kingdom, because they have the most amount of Genie Plus available attractions. So with that being said, first thing in the morning, if you're staying on property, you have early Genie Plus rights at 7 a.m. If you're not staying on property, then you have to wait until park opening. Depending on the park, it could be anywhere between 8 and 9 a.m. and the time of year. So what my recommendation would be is at 7 o'clock, you grab your first Genie Plus for Magic Kingdom, but do not grab it for any time earlier than you think you will feasibly be there after Animal Kingdom. You do need a park hopper, by the way, to do this. So make sure that you do have a park hopper ticket. And so let's just say you will be starting at 2 p.m. All right. And you can find availability for maybe something that's hard to get, like Peter Pan. Peter Pan goes very quick. I don't know why people want it, but anyway, start to grab it for like around 2 p.m. All right. Once you have that secured, every 2 hours until you kind of get within an hour of getting there. So again, if you have a 2 p.m. Genie Plus, so up until about 1 o'clock, grab your next Genie Plus and then your next Genie Plus. And here's a really important tip. Set your alarm. I know, guys, it sucks, but like if you want to work the system, you kind of have to use the tech that way. Set your alarm for 2 hours after you've made your booking so that you can keep grabbing it in a timely fashion. If there's nothing there that is to your liking, don't worry about it. Just grab something and grab anything, even if it's for a time that you otherwise can't make it. Does that make sense? Just grab it. That reserves that entitlement for you. So keep doing that. Now, the tricky thing is with 7 a.m., you do get early booking privileges. So if you want to grab Slinky Dog, highly recommend you grab it at 7 a.m. because otherwise, if you're staying off property, they may all be gone by the time you're ready to book. So I'm losing my train of thought again. All right, I know what I was going to say. If you grab it at 7 a.m., you cannot grab your second Genie Plus until 2 hours after park opening. So that's 11 o'clock. That's the only weird gap. But once 11 o'clock hits, you're going to grab a Genie Plus at 11, and this is going to be second one, and another one at 1. Okay. Then what's going to happen is, okay, let's just say you grab the 1 o'clock and you show up at at Magic Kingdom to do that 2 o'clock booking, right? The one that you already reserved. And the 1 o'clock actually, you would actually only grab 2 Genie Pluses. I take that back. You take your 7 a.m., you take your 11 a.m. And do not grab a Genie Plus at 1 p.m. I repeat, don't do that if you have a 2 p.m. ride already booked. Because what's going to happen is once you grab it at 1 o'clock, you will not be entitled to grab another one until 3 o'clock. So you'd think, oh, but I have a ride at 2. So that means I can grab another one when I'm done with my ride. No, because you just overrode that with the 2-hour booking rule. So you forego the third one, do your ride at 2 o'clock, and then after 2 o'clock, grab the next one. And hopefully your pre-planned or pre-booked one is shortly after. So then you get into a pattern of booking when you burn as opposed to the 120-minute rule. So at the end of the day, use the 120-minute rule up until you are physically in the park, but not too close to the time when you're actually going to be using your first one. If you're within an hour of the 120 minutes versus using your first one, forego the 120 minutes because you're going to get to book your next one quicker once you tap in there. I know, guys, it's crazy. And it took a lot of mental gymnastics for me to finally get it, and I tested it, and that is the way it works. So my recommendation, if I'm helping you plan your trip, is call me and we can kind of break it down so that you can maximize that. Or else, sometimes folks are very upset that they spent all this money on Genie Plus and nothing was available, when it was really more of, how are you grabbing your Genie Pluses? Let's break that down, that sort of thing. That's enough about that. I know that was super confusing. All right, so moving on to virtual queue. So virtual queue is the ability to get into, not for cookies for this instance, but get onto an attraction in advance without waiting in a line. And once your group is called, and you can see that on the app, then you can go and hop in line. You get right in line, right? The only trick of it is when you grab your virtual queue 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling you, 6:59 and 58 seconds, you need to be hitting the refresh button like a crazy person. I'm serious. Like, you can't wait for it to hit 7 o'clock. That's all I have to say. The virtual queue options go very, very fast. You don't know what boarding group you're going to get. You can get number 2, you can get number 50, you can get number 100, right? Good rule of thumb is if you get 50 or earlier, plan on being at the park by noon. If you're close to 50, around noon. Anything after group 50, it's highly unlikely that they'll call you before around noon, whether it's one of 2 rides, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy in Epcot or Tron at Magic Kingdom. I repeat, the only 2 virtual queues right now are either Guardians of the Galaxy in Epcot or Tron at Magic Kingdom. So those 2 attractions, you can't use Genie Plus for, the standard one that I just talked about, where you pay one fixed cost and you get on rides. These are kind of the bougie rides. So if you can't get into a virtual queue, or you don't want to, and you want to pick a very specific time, you can get something called Premium Lightning Lane. Yes, it's the same lane that you go into with the Genie Plus. I know, confusing, but it's kind of like this top tier ride, and every park has one top tier ride where you have an option to get a virtual queue. So, or where you have an option to get Premium Lightning Lane. Sorry, I'm confusing everyone, I know. So if you're not successful in getting a virtual queue, I always recommend try virtual queue. It's free. It is completely free, right? And if you can't get in at one of two times, which is either smack at 7 a.m. or at 1 p.m., of which you have to be in the park for the 1 p.m. 7 a.m. you can be anywhere. Then you get your lightning lane as an alternative. You do have to pay for it, but you get to choose your time. All right. Now, here is kind of the latest update because, as everyone knows now, park hopping rules have changed. There is no more the need to wait until 2 o'clock to get into your second park. You can tap into your first park, Animal Kingdom, and if you're a ticket holder, you don't even need a reservation anymore. That only goes for pass holders on certain days to make things even more confusing. But let's forget pass holders right now. You get into your first park. Let's just say it's Magic Kingdom and you were successful in getting your virtual queue. And let's just also say that you got an early boarding group potentially, right? Call it anything before group 50. You could ride Tron, and then as long as you are in Epcot by 1 o'clock and not a second later, right? As long as you're scanned into Epcot and you have a park hopper on your ticket, you can then also be eligible for a second virtual queue for Guardians of the Galaxy. Only if your time has passed and you got an early boarding group for Tron. So that's a way you can double dip into doing virtual queue twice in one day. And I was a little confused about this because I thought that you could just at 1 o'clock grab it from anywhere. No, you actually have to be in the park. So that only works with interchangeability between Magic Kingdom and Epcot. The good thing is there is a monorail. You have to connect at the Ticket and Transportation Center, but you have a straight line on the monorail to go between those two parks. All right, got it? You're with me? Okay, moving on. Okay, Port Orleans French Quarter. I did post some stuff on my Facebook group page, and I did want to mention it. Look, families can stay anywhere all week long. It really depends on what you need your room for. If you're going to be park marathoning it from AM to PM and you're really just crashing and getting your shower either at night or in the morning and leaving, you know what? You don't need a ton of space, right? But if you do see yourself kind of maybe getting a late start on a couple of days, maybe not rope dropping, getting up early, maybe taking a nap, getting a little bit of a breather, or maybe just doing a half day at a park and you just want to veg in your hotel room. I know I like to do that sometimes too. Watch a movie or two, get some quick service from the hotel, eat it in your room. Fun times, right? Some resorts, if you're like a family of 4 and you've got tweens or teens, it gets tight. And so I will say I did experience that a little bit at Port Orleans French Quarter, and I did get the crappy side of the bed where you could barely get in and out and there's no end table, nothing to plug your phone into if you're surfing on the internet or whatever. It was tight. Now, would I stay there again? Absolutely. I personally wouldn't do more than 1 or 2 nights at Port Orleans French Quarter. We do like to split stay, which means if you are going for a period of time and you want to go to 2 different resorts, like FOMO for me is because I love the Epcot Resorts area. And I also love the Magic Kingdom monorail route in that area, as well as some other things that are a little bit far out there, like Coronado, right? So for me, if I'm like, I'd say 5 nights or more, I will almost always do a split stay. But if I'm like 1 to 4 nights, maybe 5, only 5 if I'm in a really comfortable location, I'll probably just stay at one resort. Port Orleans French Quarter for me for 4 nights was a little too tight. But then again, we went to the parks for a few hours a day, not all day long. And it's only because we have an annual pass. We know we're always coming back. We don't feel the need to be there day through night. So it's a little bit different for me. But other than that, it's lovely. We had a really pretty Riverview room. Now, here's what I'm going to say about this. I like the Riverview room over some of the garden view areas? Yes, I do. Do I think it's worth a ton more in terms of a premium and cost? No. And here's why. Walking to your room, you see the river. With your window wide open, you see the river. However, with moderate resort, with it being a moderate resort, you don't have a balcony. So you can't sit out there and grab a cup of coffee and enjoy the river. Like you can, but you're standing up against the rail. And a couple people did that for a few minutes. You only do that for so long. So I don't think you really get the opportunity to appreciate the view just because of the schematic of the room, the layout, and nope, lack of balcony, basically, right? It's more like I'm going to say it, like a motel setup sort of thing. But it was lovely. And we stayed on the French Quarter side, which is much smaller than Riverside. So Port Orleans has two sections. French Quarter, which is supposed to be more like New Orleans Square, and then Riverside, which is more like the plantation style. And you have more of your princess royal rooms and everything on the Riverside side of Port Orleans. I don't know exactly how big, but if you look at a map, it's definitely less than half the size. I would say it's almost like a third of the size compared to Riverside. But you can use the pools anywhere. Actually, French Quarter pool was closed when we were there, which was fine. You know, it's something that we really needed to do at that time or that time of year because it can get a little cold. Their quick service is good. They have things like gumbo and jambalaya and the famous Scat Cat Cafe that has the beignets there. I will say I like I think it's called the Trading Outpost, the kind of temporary run of beignets in Magic Kingdom, which is still happening. It was supposed to be done like end of February. I really like the buffet, the beignets in Magic Kingdom better than the beignets at Port Orleans French Quarter. They're different. You've got more of a cronut type of thing, like that look like nuggets at Magic Kingdom, and you've got more of a donut, Mickey-shaped donut type of thing, or like square things at the Scat Cat Cafe at Port Orleans French Quarter. They're both very good, don't get me wrong, but MK's got something going on. I will wait in line for those. They're excellent. You only have a choice of one sauce, which is the strawberry sauce at Magic Kingdom. Whereas at Port Orleans French Quarter, you can get chocolate sauce and you can get caramel, my favorite. You can also get boozy beignets at Port Orleans French Quarter, which they fill up a pipette of like Kahlua or Bailey's, stick it in there, and it's like you put in whatever you want to your content, kind of thing. So that's kind of unique. But really, really liked it. I might stay there again. I checked it off on my list. I think the walkway is lovely along the Sassagoula River. You have great boat access to Disney Springs. The boat does get crowded. Now, again, we were there during a really, really busy time, second to like Christmas. And it's just great. I liked it a lot. I have nothing bad to say about it. Just break down what your expectations are of your day's logistics throughout your vacation, and you can decide for yourself whether you think you'll be comfortable in that room. All right, that's enough about that. All right, Animal Kingdom, my love. I love Animal Kingdom. It's the atmosphere. It's the immersion factor. It's Joe Rohde's creative mind. It is next level. I mean, Magic Kingdom is special, don't get me wrong, and it's very nostalgic, but Joe Rohde put some serious thought into his travels and translating things in India, things in the Far East, Africa, and it's just so in keeping. I'm always finding something new. And the background music, I have a thing for the theme music in the background at all the parks, whether like that's what gets me at Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood. It's just without the music in the background, it's not what it is. So Disney nailed it there. But as I said earlier with Animal Kingdom, you do not need Genie Plus there. Sure, you can get it if you want to, but I think it would be a waste if you don't just like maybe strategically plan to get there a little early. But the safari opens at 8:30. And I love the safari because someone would say like, oh, it's kind of lame. That's not really a ride. Well, no, you are like in a open air kind of Jeep thing, but it's different every single time, depending on the time of day you're going, depending on the weather, depending on the mood of the animals. This last one was the best safari I ever had. I mean, I had rhinos up close. I had a giraffe practically sticking its neck into our safari bus. And then conveniently, we had a little bit of a roadblock where we had to stop, and we got front row of seeing the lion and the lioness. I mean, you usually whip around that corner and you could maybe get a glimpse of them, but we were dead stop for a solid, I think, almost 5 minutes, and it maybe was a little bit longer. And though it wasn't in front of me, but when the lion went around the corner on the other side, he started to roar. And that was like, oh, like the next best thing would be if he roared like right in front of us. But, you know, you could hear a roar for 5 miles. I hear that like fun fact every single time I'm on there. But when they say it, it blows me away. Like 5 miles away, you could hear it. I had an amazing experience. If we had the time, I probably would have gotten off and gotten back on again. Just to see what would happen. It's a really, really unique experience. So I didn't want to spend too much time on Animal Kingdom. And maybe while I'm talking, because I do a little editing afterwards. Yes, I'm kind of doing that now. Maybe I'll put in a couple of videos so you can kind of see everything that I'm talking about. But it was just super. It was like the highlight of my trip, really. All right, we're going to wrap it up with what to look forward to in the summer and the fall. So, as far as what's going on in the summer and the fall, it is a weird time in that transition of a time. So Flower and Garden used to go on through about July 5th, right? At least July 5th the last 2 years. This year it ends at 5/27. I don't know if that's technically summer. Isn't summer like technically like June 20 or 21st or later? So, and then we get Food and Wine, which usually starts up the end of July. So guys, we have a gap here. Of all of the festivals, you have, I'm kind of going to start with Food and Wine. You've got that at the end of July, through about the middle of November. And then there's no more than a week to maybe 2 max of a break at Epcot, and you get right into the Festival of the Holidays. That runs about 4 weeks. Then we have maybe 1 to 2 weeks off with no festivals, and then you get right into Festival of the Arts. That is a short run too, 4 to 5 weeks. Then about a week or 2 break at most, and you get into Flower and Garden Festival. You always had a festival, always. This year, for the first time, we have a break from 5/27 through, we don't know for sure, but around the end of July, which is when Food and Wine starts. What is Disney doing? What's going on? What's up? I can think of one of 2 things. If they were going to surprise us with the summer festival, I think all the marketing hype would have come out by now, right? For a while there was a lot of speculation that there's going to be a Summerfest, and I think that summer is a season that calls for different foods and different things. I think it's a great opportunity. But with no announcements or anything, I'm thinking it's not a thing. So now we have nothing for 2 months. Is Disney maybe wanting to experiment with what the vibe and what happens with restaurants during that time when there is no festival for a good 4-week stint? No, it's going to be even longer, like 8 weeks. 8 weeks with no festival, right? Maybe the restaurants are hurting because everyone's eating in the food booths. Maybe they're trying to give back to the restaurants. I don't know. So stay tuned because the Flower and Garden is going to end soon. We'll probably get some announcements around Food and Wine Festival. I'm just reading my notes here, guys. That's why I keep looking away. But nothing is happening. So that's it. That's all I have for today. I know that was a lot, and I will hope to circle back with you soon. I've been busy doing mom stuff, but in the meantime, have a great spring. Talk soon.